Lunacy by Joe Fury. It's madness.
Hello everybody. Welcome to Lunch Therapy. I am your host, Joel Marshall. This is Interview Friday, and we got a great guest today. We got Kamryn K, all the way from Michigan. At least I met her in Michigan. She could be, I don't know, she could be anywhere. That's the kind of show it is. We got some great shows coming up this weekend. Just wanted to mention those. You can see Kamryn K at the Comedy Room at the Grotto. There's a link in the show notes there tonight, 10:30 Eastern time. If you happen to be in the Michigan area, we'll have to ask her about that, where that is, all that stuff. And then also last week we had Marcus Monroe on the show, and he's at Flappers tonight, Marcus and Corey B. So if you happen to be in Los Angeles, also 10 p.m. show. Go down there, check it out. They're both hilarious. If you don't know Marcus, check out last Friday's show. But this is Lunch Therapy Interview Friday. Let's get into it. I'm gonna get myself a modem. 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 All right, so now we're in the show. This is the show Lunch Therapy. Lunch Therapy is in its 5th year. We're still going strong. We're on Tuesdays and Fridays. Please subscribe if you've never been here before. Check it out. We've got all kinds of incredible interviews, a lot of them with comedians, clowns, directors, actors, philosophers. You got it all right here. This is a show where we take a break from the crap. That's our slogan. Take a break from the crap that's going on in the world. Get in here, get your mind right. Hoy, Camila Lopez is here. Welcome. Please, as we go along, please feel free to chat in the chat room. We will be reading your comments. And today's show is really about finding out all about Kamryn K. She is exploding on the comedy scene there in Michigan. We want to hear more about that. We want to hear more about the Michigan comedy scene and what it is to be someone there. But first, we're going to breathe. Oh, Pam Palmieri is here. Hoy! Hoy, Pam Palmieri. She is a producer in Michigan. Longtime friend, longtime viewer of the show. So proud of what she's doing over there. Ginny Sykes and I went out there and kick some ass with her, going to different venues in Michigan, and it's super fun. And that's where we met Kamryn. So that's cool. Howard is here. How can you top Tuesday's show? Yes, Tuesday's show was a special one. Probably top 10. Howard Aronin guest starred, guest co-host. Ginny Sykes is here. Yeah, we're going to find out more about her. We just got a taste of what she can do. She does impressions. We saw her do stand-up comedy in a brewery. Howard, so sucks. I missed Tuesday, but you'll have to watch. Yeah, Ginny, you got to watch that. That was an epic smackdown. All right, breathing time. Okay, time to breathe. This is where we take oxygen into our lungs in a process that we call breathing. Basically, what happens is the air comes in, goes into your lungs somehow, and your lungs take out all the oxygen, put it through your body, makes you feel better, calms you down, calms down your nervous system, and you know what? You can't live without doing it. So For those of you that haven't been breathing for a while, I don't know how you're living. Chuck Goldsmith is here. Congrats, Howard. We didn't talk about it on Tuesday, but Howard is going to be blowing up on the television pretty soon. And you just heard it here. I don't know any details at all. Just rumors that I heard trolling the internet. Pam Palmieri going to have to watch you, Howard. Yeah, Howard did you miss it? Yeah, that was super fun. You know what? This Tuesday, we're going to have Ginny and Pam on the show. This is going to be incredible. Howard Aronin says, thank God for that exclamation mark after Howard Ginny. Let's go back and take a look at that one. I don't know where that is. You're welcome. Yes. All right, let's get some breath. Here we go. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. Let all the air out. And then open up the lungs. Allow the air in. Hold it. Let it go. Travis is saying, let us know what your zodiac sign is in the comments. Why not? Why the hell not? Mine is Libra Scorpio. So this is for Libras out there. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. And as if this wasn't enough, got some hand pan for you. Malta Martin and Julia. This guy's a master. He's got a website, Malta Martin. Just going to show a little brief taste of this to get you excited about these people. Join our Patreon, patreon.com/Joel Marshall. Maybe someday we will be able to afford a handpan here in the studio and a handpan player. Boney will play it with his bony little bone hands. I bet Boney would be good at this thing. Friday potato fries, TGIF. They are loaded with all the goodies. Well, there you have it. Chuck's been sending me some really cool stuff I'm going to put on the show on Tuesday. Yeah, I need some hanging too. Just going to loosen up a little bit. Full disclosure, I have been freaking out the last couple of days. Gotta get a new car. Gotta get a car. It's stressful with all the other things going on in life. This sometimes hang-panging, just ping-pangs, all the stresses and all the weird thoughts and terrifying death threats that are going on in your mind. You can just ping-pong them out with a little ping-pong. I actually don't like the sport ping-pong. I just like the handpan ping-pong. Yeah, that was weird. That was a tongue drum. Chuck Goldsmith says, I will volunteer to play my Yamaha keyboards as a fill-in with a handpan until we can get a handpan. That sounds great. Thanks, Chuck. Appreciate that. The giving spirit of Rocktober. Just have a visit from your brother and sister-in-law from back east. It's like a Karnak experience. Karnak. Johnny Carson used to put or maybe it was not Johnny Carson at all. It was someone that looked like Johnny Carson, would have a turban on, read everybody's fortunes. Pam says, hey, equal means equal. Every day we are one more close to the ERA being passed. I think you mean published. Thank you for carrying on the torch for this many years. Yes, because it is passed. It's ratified. Equal rights for women are ready to go into the Constitution. It's just some neglect going on. Nice. I heard the guest giggle. Yeah, she's in there with Boney. They're having fun. Boney's like telling her stories, and you know he's got a lot of Rocktober stories because he is a skeleton. Being published, yes. Chuck Goldsmith, he was in the zone, the handpan zone, not alone. He was in the zone. Wow, we got poetry happening. This is raising the bar. First we had Howard on Tuesday. He did his poetry, which is super cool. All right, we got to leave. We got to get into this interview. Patreons, there they are. The beloved Patreons. Mike Knox, that guy is on fire. He is happening. You know, if you become a Patreon, I think your life changes. That's what I think happens. And I mean, his acting career is just blowing up. A lot of times we have people on the show. I'm thinking of like Ariana Romick, who was on the show, and she's just exploded on the Los Angeles comedy scene, coming from Seattle. That's my goal here with Kamryn K as well. She's just going to explode into the world. Thanks, Pam. I'm bumming that they are ignoring us, Biden and Harris. I know. This is politics. It's not politics because women should be in the Constitution. There's nothing political about that. It's just women are not in the Constitution except for this amendment that says that they can vote. But the rest of the time when it says he and it talks about him, they're talking about dudes. Yes. Anyway, I don't know. Politics injected into the lunch therapy scene. All right, let's move on here. It's interview time. All right, so I met Kamryn K, Kamryn Kelems, in the great state of Michigan. Ginny Sykes and I were out there with Pam Palmieri doing 3 shows, and to warm up, we went to this brewery that was doing an open mic. I believe it was called, and I could be wrong, but I believe it was called I took a note, 734 Brewery. They had, so shout out to the 734 Brewery in Ypsilanti, Michigan. I probably said that wrong. They had speakers on the outside because a lot of the people were outside, and you could hear the comics in the street. They even just blasted it right out to the street. We went across the street. We had some Mexican food, which was delicious. Weird thing to leave Los Angeles and go to Michigan for Mexican food, but we did it, Ginny and Pam and I. And at this wonderful place, we ran into Kamryn. Kamryn, she did this just off the cuff impersonation that was just amazing to me, of that woman whose name I can't think of, who's on the White Lotus. Awesome. Camelot will happen. Oh yeah, we're still talking about that. That's good. Yes. Maybe she'll do the impersonation on the show. I don't know. But anyway, she's an up-and-coming comedian. There's a big, thriving community of comedians in Michigan. I think that maybe, I don't know, things have opened up a lot more. Like, comedians are not just in Los Angeles and New York now. They're all over the country. I don't know whether it's always been that way. We're going to have to ask some of the experts, like Kamryn. No, not Aubrey Plaza. Okay, this is a quiz. She was in White Lotus, both of them. When will White Lotus be back? Well, we saw a hilarious video of The Simpsons making fun of the White Lotus intro, which is really good. I highly recommend that. Cam, please do the impersonation or another one in your repertoire. I do love JC though, she said. Well, let's bring her on, because this is just, I'm just really taking way too much long. Yeah, yes, Jennifer Coolidge. Thank you very much. She does a Jennifer Coolidge impersonation, but it's a hybrid of her and somebody else. Yellow Lotus. Interesting. All right, let's get into Interview Friday. Yes. Welcome to Lunch Therapy.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Oh my God, it's Jennifer Coolidge. What the heck? I love
Right
that.
off the bat, right?
That was super good. Super good. What was the impression that you did? It was Jennifer Coolidge and somebody else.
So Jennifer Coolidge and LL Cool J. So
LL
LL Coolidge, comma Jennifer. I'm gonna knock you out. Mama said
Yeah.
knock you out.
All right. I love it. Kamryn, when we met you, we were just like, this is a very fun person. You're super willing to do things, just off the cuff like that. And then we saw your stand-up comedy, and, this was an open mic, but it was really smart, really interesting. There was even some math involved. And I found it very, really fun. And I talked to Pam about you, and I was like, what? And Ginny and I were both like, wow, we were really impressed with her. And Pam said, yes, she's fantastic. And you should hear about her family. Apparently your family is really exciting too.
My family's all around. My dad has been one of the biggest supporters, so he's at the open mics. A lot of the
Really?
Michigan comedians know him now. He's become
Really?
a staple at some of these places, it feels like.
That's awesome. So he's a big supporter of you. How that really helps, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, and even with getting bookings, knowing that, yeah, I can bring a couple people to a show if need be, and they won't actually hate it.
yeah. What is his vocation?
He is retiring this year from Ford, Michigan. So obviously, he's going to work for one of the big three, but he's been doing heating and cooling for Ford for over 30 years.
Do you think he'll ever get on the comedy stage?
I just had him even introduce me. I did my very first produced show a couple weekends ago up in Oscoda, Michigan, a real kind of BFE.
Yeah.
3 nights, 4 different places. But after the very first night, I realized it was weird starting it off and being the host. So I had him just say a joke and kind of introduce me to start us all off. And he lived the dream, definitely fulfilled something. He's comfortable up there, it seems. Too comfortable.
Too comfortable. What does stand-up comedy fulfill for you? Like, is that something you always wanted to do, or is it something that came along later?
I think it's something that I've always been told I'd be good at. People always, oh, you're a funny kid, you're a funny kid. Actually doing it though is so crazy than what you'd think. I started writing for 2 years before I ever went on a stage, so I've had tons of stuff to work through, and I still have learned so much more to go. It's been less than a year. I'm barely dipping my toes in.
Yeah. Do you, so did you feel like you had to, it's interesting that you were doing writing for years before you went up there. Were you trepidatious of going up there, or did you just want to make sure that you were ready?
I think I didn't know what I was going to do at the time. Writing could also be writing down an idea for a TikTok skit, or writing down all the impersonations. I do one in the car and then I'll forget about it by the time you get home.
Yeah.
Until somebody mentions, wait, don't you do Ariana Grande? And I was like, yeah, I do. That's right. That's right.
Did you start with impersonations when you first got up there?
No, that was just something that I've always been able to do as a kid. You hear something, and it's fun just to repeat it and just try to see how closely you can get to what that sounds like,
Yeah. And do you were you like in the rowing club or something? I have this kayak on the screen here.
I was in the rowing club. I was a collegiate athlete in high school. Shout out Grow Zeal.
Really?
Yeah, but I lived in the water and the Detroit River, so I got to go up every single morning at 4 a.m. and work out for 2 hours before school. Went to Canada and got to go up and get on the grand stage, get some medals. It was a big thing.
Oh, wow. So you're an athlete.
Always. Die hard. Let's go. Basketball.
Basketball too? Do you bring that athlete's mind to your comedy?
I think that it was a wake-up call for me to realize how competitive comedy was. Being a producer for the very first time, I realized that it was the very first show going into it where I actually wanted to be the worst one there. I hoped that every other comedian that I brought in the lineup was on their A game and was giving the best, as opposed to every other show before. I'm like, I kind of hope somebody's a little bit off just to make me seem better, By comparison, I need somebody to have an off day so I can really look good. But now it's not competition. It feels like sometimes it really is like you're giving the best show as a whole.
Are you doing a competition that's coming up at
At
the
Mark Ridley's.
Comedy Castle? Yeah. What
Yes,
is
right
that?
here in Royal Oak. So that is a Detroit to LA. There's going to be a bunch of comedians doing short sets. And then at the end, you get two winners. One is by audience and one is by a judge panel. So hopefully some people show up, you know.
Yeah. So
But
yeah.
those comedians then go on to a second round and eventually get sent to LA with the connections from Mark Ridley. So having, you know, stages and time kind of already out there for them.
So is that kind of like the ideal for you, that you would go out to LA eventually? Or is that something that you need to do anymore?
I never thought that I would make it even like this far, that I would actually ever get paid to do comedy, that I would be doing my own shows, and all of it happening so quickly. I think my next step, and I've actually just lost a couple of friends. Shout out Victor and Vivian, actually. Weird that it's two V's, but they just moved to Chicago. And that's kind of nearby enough and still has a good enough thriving scene, I think, to be a little bit of a
It's
stepping
super
stone.
close too. Yeah, super close.
Yeah, right. I can still
I
be
think
with my family.
that's a great idea.
I will, though.
Yeah.
I'll know if my dad is watching this right now, because I will be getting texts within the next couple minutes being like, "You're not going to Chicago."
But isn't it close enough that you could just go for a couple shows?
There's
and things
trains. There's, you
Yeah.
know, like half a train, go to Chicago for a day. It's not that big of a deal. It
Yeah.
would be all right. I also, hopefully, you know, the Detroit scene seems to be growing so quickly as well, that I think there's a lot of opportunities here, and I'm grateful to be making opportunities too and making new shows.
Is that Comedy Castle, is that the main club in the Detroit area? Is it the biggest one?
That's the one where if you're worth it, you'll go there. The Detroit House of Comedy is downtown, and they have a lot of great people too. But Mark Ridley's, when you walk in, the walls are lined with hundreds of photo frames from everybody. Everybody who's ever been there. I actually will also be opening for Mick Foley, the WWE superstar,
Wow.
when he comes around.
Cool.
To Mark Ridley's eventually, but that has been now pushed back to probably sometime earlier next year. But it is like it's the most adult club around.
How did you get that spot opening for a comedian that's a road comic that's coming in?
So he is a WWE superstar, and I got super into WWE. Decided to go to my very first Comic-Con just to meet Mick Foley. No reason to go other, like there was crazy names, but I was super excited to meet him. I went with my dad and brother, and we dressed up as his three wrestling personas. So he actually took interest to us and kind of hung out with us and invited us back to his hotel room after the convention to watch the Lakers game and eat Buddy's Pizza, a Detroit pizza thing. But we ended up just hanging out, exchanging emails. And then when I told him one day I was doing comedy, he's been crazy supportive, and just like as soon as I was like, hey, I'm doing a show, he's like, oh, well, you can open for me when I come into town. No problem. But I was like, huge. Not even doing anything yet, and having that kind of in my back pocket has probably been too much of an ego boost for me. I really need to get this bubble popped one of these days, for sure.
No. Don't do that. Don't do that. I think, oh, look, we're in a new segment. What do you think about that, though, as far as confidence goes? You seem to have a lot of confidence behind the mic. Where do you think you gained that confidence, and how do you think it works for you?
Fake it till you make it. That's been the goal ever since you were little. It's funny that people, like, when I first started doing it, were like, you seem to have like a comfortable stage presence, and I was like, I don't at all. I'm not comfortable up there. I'm nervous right now sitting here.
Yeah.
I was actually more nervous to do this than I have been to do some mics, because it's like, that's all fake, you know. I'm telling jokes. It doesn't matter what I say, but this is real. This is about me. I'm dancing. I'm trying to be honest. This is more nerve-wracking than even telling jokes, for sure.
And as you go along with comedy, you kind of realize that is the sweet spot too, being as you as possible. A lot of times that's what really makes people find their voice, their voice. Kamala Lopez says, more impressions, please. Pam says, can we please hear Ariana?
The Ariana is just the cat from Victoria. It's real old school, because now her voice has changed, and there's videos where she don't even sound like Ariana sometimes. But the initial, it's so great to be here. Thank you so much.
All
Don't know what to do
right.
with it. Right, you'll see it.
I like it. Now, when you did the open mic, you told a story about your family being somewhere where you simulated a scene from a movie where there was a baby, there was a guy slumped over the bar, there was, all that stuff. Can
So
you
we
tell
went
me
on a
something about that?
cruise.
Yeah.
Yes, we went on a cruise earlier this year. 16 people in our group. That's all family. I am one of 5 kids. I've got 3 more step siblings with boyfriends, husbands, babies, and all that. There was 16 of us, and we decided to run what we called the time loop cliche, which
Yeah.
is that cliche bit from every time loop movie. And one
Okay.
person, sat at the bar,
Yeah.
super disheveled,
Yeah.
was just having an awful time on vacation, and we had to wait for our victim to walk up and be like, "Hey, what's going on?" And then it was nothing but practice. He'd be like, "What's going on? Don't you know you've asked me that 13 times every single day? Watch this. The guy in the red shirt up there," and it's just our brother. Like, he's
Yeah.
about to trip, and he does. The couple walking by, like, mimics the conversation. This little kid in the stroller. It took us 6 hours to teach that little 6-month-old. Like, when I point at you, you throw and get the timing all down. But right, convincing people that we were stuck in a time loop. Eventually, when the victim really did fall for it, it's like, "Oh my God, what do we do next?" It's like, "We got 8 hours, so this boat's on its side. We got to find the captain right now."
I love
And
that.
now we're not allowed.
I thought that was I thought it was like a specific movie, but I think, yeah, like movies like Inception and movies like that, they always have these kind of time loop kind of situations. Is your family that crazy that they would do like actually
Yes.
stage some
Oh,
shit like that?
crazier. I've got jokes about my family that I can't even tell on stage. They are insane.
Really? Oh my God, that's great. Um, all right, let's go here. All right, so now my question for you is, where do you see yourself going? Like, what do you want to, what's your goal as a
The
comedian?
goal is to keep going until this isn't fun anymore or I start really sucking. I already suck a little bit, but if it gets like really bad,
Do you think, would you look at it like that? Like you would like get worse? Because you're only going to
I
get better.
that's it. As of right now, there's still so much to learn. There's so much to do. So I'm
Yeah.
still on the up and up. At some point, if I'm ever like, you know what, like, oh, I should start teaching. If I ever say I should start teaching, like, somebody play me this video, I should quit. That's it.
No,
That's
come on. Come on. There's lots of good teachers out there that are hilarious comedians, right? Have you taken some courses with anybody?
See, now this is where I sound really bad, but I'm like, no, I
Well,
and I would like to. There's been so many I've been interested in. Mark Ridley's that we kind of talked about earlier has a lot of good classes, and
Yeah.
not just classes about teaching you how to write and kind of doing that stuff, but just connecting you with other local comedians and giving you the connections that they have to at that comedy castle. Introducing you to bookers and things like that is super, super helpful. And I would love to do one day.
when you were doing all that writing before you got up on stage, did you read any books or look into anything about joke structure or anything like that? Or were you just kind of going for like what you think is funny, which is cool?
No, I was obsessed, I think, with learning as much before actually doing things
Mm-hmm.
myself. Really listening to, there's a master classes that you could listen to anybody. And I think Steve Martin had a class on there, listening to Steve Martin's
I
book.
saw that too.
Oh, right. Ralphie
Yeah.
May has a super, super good YouTube video that every starting comic, honestly, even older comics should watch. That's really helpful. But just finding any resource, like finding classes even that were free online. I was trying
Yeah.
to get my hands on as much material as possible.
Yeah. Over the pandemic, were you doing that? Is that?
No, that's been something. This wasn't something that I ever thought I really would be doing to this degree. So that's the collecting material is something that I feel like I've been doing forever. Just always kind of interested, always having an ear out for if something is good. Kind of collecting that during the pandemic when it seemed like everything shut down. I probably got more into watching stand-ups. But now that I've started doing comedy, I watch so less stand-ups.
Why do you do
It's
that?
harder. I feel like you're either sitting there and now it's like I'm kind of judging it a little bit more, and I don't want to do that. I'm in no position to do that. That's crazy that I even think I'm cool enough to judge, any person who has a special, let alone like that's crazy. And then
Yeah.
secondly, it's also just the jokes. I don't like somebody else's really good bit, like will stick with me, and I don't want to be influenced by that
I
as much
feel that
anymore. Or it's
same way.
hard.
I feel that same way sometimes. I don't want to watch other comedians because I'm afraid that that will get stuck in my head, and then later on I think it's my idea or something.
Right, right. It's like you don't know, or yeah, it's just I can then say when somebody's like, "Hey, that joke is kind of similar to so and so's," I can
Yeah.
honestly be like, "Well, I haven't seen it, truly,
Yeah.
like I don't know what that joke is," and this is an original idea, and that kind of protects that for you.
But you can learn so much from, looking at the structure of people's jokes that it's almost like you kind of have to and just kind of go, you know what? There probably aren't any real original ideas out there. It's all point of view. This is something I've been thinking about lately with, artificial intelligence and things, because that's just going to get better. And I'm sure artificial intelligence is going to get funnier too, as, writing jokes and things like that. And it's like, where do we stand as humans in this world where all of a sudden there's going to be like this super intelligence? Is that going to screw up us as artists? What do you think about that?
There is some right as all of a sudden it's got real,
Yeah, just got real.
artificial intelligence. I've used it to help me write bios or to help me do like the
Hmm.
mundane stuff if you need a caption for a picture. But it's great for that sort of thing because it really can't write jokes. Like any
Yeah,
comedian who thinks that AI is coming for you, like ask it, give it your setup and see if it can write the punchline better than you. Because from what I can see, it's not. It's not it will
yet. I
eventually
mean,
obviously kind of right,
yeah,
yeah, when it gets in there. I mean, just imagine if it starts making the meta jokes, talking about itself.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I
like
wonder
there,
though,
there is a lot.
will it have the ability to? Because a lot of times our comedy the reason I feel like we go to comedy and we enjoy it is because we have a connection with their point of view. And maybe all the material is the same, as far as like what goes on in daily life, like observational comedy. We all are seeing the same thing, but it's their point of view on something that is actually usually funny. There's a structure to it, there's all these things, but we want to see, and same with actors, we kind of want to see, a person like us going through what we go through. And I don't know if an AI can really suffer the way we do or have joy the way we do. And that's kind of what we're looking at.
It's like can AI do a painting? Yes, AI can create images, but it's always just going to be a combination of all the information that we've given it. So even
Yeah.
when it comes to jokes, it'll be able to produce a joke, but even that joke is a rewrite of the thousands of jokes that it's learned, and things like that to get a structure. So like, will it ever be able to come up with a new joke structure, like a new punchline and something that hasn't been done before and all that new sort of things?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is can AI not? Hopefully not in our lifetime. That'd be terrifying.
Yeah.
That's the apocalypse, isn't it?
It's interesting because behind us, I have an AI created image. I put in some words and I created an image, but then I layered it with a video and I did certain things with it. And I feel like these things are a creative expression of ourselves using these tools. And I don't know, maybe we'll be able to do like super creativity using these tools as we go along. Kamala Lopez says, Cameron and Joel, what do you think of the Ellen DeGeneres new special? Did you see that? Well, we were just talking about how Cameron's not watching any comedians, but I did watch it.
I did not know she had a special.
Yeah, she has a new special. And it is, basically she's coming back after years of being, I don't know,
Since
blacklisted.
2020 is kind of right when everything went down for her. She got
Yeah,
exposed.
she got
quote
exposed.
unquote.
My thought with it is I enjoyed it because it was really personal, because I like to see really personal comedy. And she's obviously a master at, telling jokes. I don't know what it was like to work for her. I would imagine if I worked for her, I would just be like, this sucks. Because if she treated me poorly in some way and then is pretending like she's a kind human and also asking for people to like her, I would probably be like, that's fake. And it's not personal. It's a person simulating being personal about herself. But I don't know. I wasn't there. I suppose I can only understand. It's so hard because we have to take points of view on things in society that we don't necessarily have the first-person experience with. But we also don't want to negate people's experiences by, saying, well, I wasn't there.
With the Ellen DeGeneres thing in particular, I felt like as soon as it came out and people were like, yeah, she's mean behind the scenes, I was like, yeah, like you can kind of tell almost a little bit. And
you can?
The Ellen personality, Ellen personality that's on the show and like is hosting it could not actually produce a show that runs that well and is that successful and all that. Like it takes a backbone. It takes occasionally telling people, hey, we need to like go to work. And I could see how, right, like you said, where if you work for her and she's saying that and then goes and is hiding in Taylor Swift's dressing room behind the door, trying to prank her again, like that's annoying.
Yeah.
But at the same time, right, she got it done. Her show did help people, right?
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people that just loved her show. That's one of the things people would ask me when they came down to Los Angeles, can you get me tickets to the Ellen DeGeneres show? And I was like, oh. And actually, my show, Lunch Therapy, especially the Tuesday show, I feel is a little bit like that. Like I during the pandemic when I was doing the show, I would do topics and we'd talk about them. Comedians would talk about them. But then I'd noticed Ellen DeGeneres was doing, like bringing on the actual people and doing, but similar topics, the same kind of things that I was following. And I also feel like her show was kind of doing that where she was giving people a break from all the garbage that's going on in the world or all the politics and all that stuff. Ginny Sykes says, does anyone think Ellen suffered more than Louis C.K. or Chris D'Elia? See, those are different. I feel like those are different situations. I mean, obviously they're all different situations. But what do you think?
When we say that they suffer, but Louis C.K. and now Ellen both are having specials a couple years after their cancellation. So like, what, do they really suffer? They may suffer for a couple years, but I thought the Louis C.K. one, I'll say I did watch that and I preferred turning it off because I was grossed out by it, that he was making so many jokes around. I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion because you're supposed to be making jokes about the uncomfortable, but the way that he went about making his jokes about his situation, which if anybody doesn't know was masturbating in front of women who didn't want that. Mm-hmm. And then he kind of just went on there and was like, yeah, you know what? Now everybody knows what I like. And it's like, ooh, that's weird that like people supported and like bought tickets to that again.
I felt the same way. And I felt like it even more after I saw the movie Sorry, Not Sorry. I don't know if you've ever seen that. But that's when I was like, I can't sign off on that. I don't feel like he really learned anything. And I think that when it comes down to it, it's just a gross power move for your own ego. It's not a sexual act. It's just a gross thing to do to degrade somebody because you have power over them. And anybody that does that, and I don't know, maybe Ellen degraded people. Ginny Sykes says, my friend knows Ellen and she isn't cuddly. Most bosses aren't. Yeah, that's the thing though, is like you say though, you got to get the show done. And she was putting a show on 5 days a week with all these moving parts. And she talks about it in the show of like, well, I didn't really want to, I'm a comedian. I didn't necessarily want to be the boss. I don't know how to be a boss, so maybe she took she was probably stressed out and she probably took it out on some people. And she was also probably the adult in the room, even though she didn't feel like she was the adult. But I think
you hit the nail on the head by saying learning from the experience, because there are ways to come back from stuff like this and have specials joking about the cancellations. It would be hilarious. It would be funny. But the making jokes about it without having that sense of, well, like you didn't actually learn anything. Like the joke is it's weird. But there is a ways to do it. I don't think that anything is off topic for sure.
I feel like I can forgive anybody if I feel like they've learned or changed. And I feel like they're not going to do that behavior. And the thing about Ellen DeGeneres and Louis C.K. and Chris D'Elia is they're professional wordsmiths. So sometimes it's hard to tell whether they did learn anything. And they're, a lot of times like Louis C.K. and Ellen are really smart people. So sometimes they can come across, but you're just like, I don't know. Like that letter that of apology that Louis C.K. wrote was like, definitely sorry, not sorry. Yeah. Anyway, and and also there's just the added thing of like, these people are so talented. because we aspire to be able to write jokes like they do and be able to fill a, Louis C.K. was saying he could fill any hall. Like they were like, where should we do next? And like, how about the Royal Albert Hall? And then they could fill it no matter what. But using that power against people sucks. Yeah. There's a, oh, and then Chuck,
I see a lot of people.
yeah, people are talking. Chuck is asking about Kathy Griffith. That's a good question too. I love
So
yeah.
has she had her comeback since I know she's had to apologize 20 times for it, but it doesn't seem like she's been able to really come back.
Yeah, I don't feel like that's anywhere near in the same category, but that's just me. I feel like she was making a joke. There's lots of people that make jokes. It was in poor taste. But she should be able to come back from that. I mean, that was just a bad idea, but it wasn't.
Right.
I don't know. That's a tough one. It's a tough one because it was violent. Violent as all
There's
get
one
out.
like that though. It's like that got past so many people to be published. You know, like a photographer that they took those pictures.
Yeah.
Somebody had to like prop master that head into and everybody thought like, right, this is a good idea.
Everybody did. Also, the thing is, I just really respect her work ethic. I feel like she's just somebody but I guess that's not part of the equation necessarily. Yeah. All right. So moving on. So now I want to ask you about putting your stuff online. So I noticed you don't have, at least I had a hard time finding your online presence. And I wonder, I mean, I see your Instagram, but I don't see clips of your jokes. I looked on TikTok. I looked at many places that I could to see if I could get some clips for the show. Are you holding that back, or is it someplace that I just can't find?
I have a couple on TikTok, but I am struggling to record. Making the graphics for posting shows and all that is easy, but when it comes to recording my shows, I find that once I post a joke, it kind of feels like it gets kind of like out of the repertoire, you know, like you kind of leave it behind and move on.
Mm-hmm.
So I hate that because I don't think that my jokes are done yet. I still am always working on new punchlines, like new segues. So I'm not ready to retire any of them yet.
Yeah.
And then when I do record, if the audience doesn't laugh, it's so nerve-wracking to post the video that I think is a good joke. But like, if it's at an open mic and it didn't actually kill the room, it doesn't seem like a good joke, you know. Like, and if I have a crappy joke but the audience laughs at it, that video will do a lot better.
Yeah.
So I'm struggling with all that. I really need to get better just recording myself every time and always, and I'm very bad at that as well. It is such a huge thing in the game, and like one clip goes viral and that's it, right? That's all it takes.
Yeah,
so by not posting.
We had, and also sometimes you need to find a different way because it's a different animal. The internet is a different animal than it is going to a club. Like, it's a different thing. And sometimes people can post crowd work and things like that. We know when it really goes crazy and they get a good shot of it and the audio is good. But trying to capture those moments sometimes is, it's a lot of build up and a lot of work just to get to that moment when maybe you could create something else. Like we had this guy, Marcus Monroe, on the show last Friday, and he goes on the subway dressed as Jesus and does Jesus one-liners. And it's not really his stand-up comedy. It's not his regular stand-up comedy. And he'll go dressed as the devil, and he'll go dressed as an exterminator, just all kinds of different people. And it's gotten a lot of viral activity for him. Oh. Whoop. And
somebody tried calling me.
So sometimes doing something just that's outside of the stand-up comedy, but is still comedy, is a really good way to do it. And, you know, I think it's just like anything else. You find it by trial and error, you know.
I do have, like I said, sketch ideas or skit ideas that I write alongside the comedy. So hopefully you'll see some more of that pop up on first the TikTok and then it bleeds through to the other social medias.
Do you think TikTok is the place for you to go first, like you're saying?
I think that it's the best testing ground for my material to go there. I definitely have the least amount of real life followers. So the people that are there to see, I think, a comedian, not there to see me, as opposed to my Facebook or Instagram are a lot of people I know in real life. Mm-hmm. So I think that kind of helps me definitely be less have a better outside opinion of my things than obviously like the friends and family. And also like, the chances of going viral, I think, are highest with TikTok. And it is, I
Yeah.
hate that this is so much of the conversation. And like I said, and I'm very bad at it, but that's such a huge thing for comedians. It takes one clip, one video, 30 seconds, and all of a sudden you have a million views and
Yeah.
you can be booked.
Yeah, I know you can be booked in clubs, and it makes a big difference. And it doesn't even have to be necessarily what you're going to do in the club. What do you what about your impressions? Seems like impressions would be a good place for you to start.
Yeah, I probably just need to record them more. I actually like I think I'm just too much of a perfectionist sometimes, and I'm seeing that now even as I get to this. I'll
Yeah.
have clips in my drafts that I can post in my stand up, but I slurred a word one time or I stuttered one
Yeah.
thing and I'm like, well, it's a good bit. I'll just redo that bit, and re-record it and do it better. But then
Yeah.
then you don't get that recording, or so it's just this whole game. And I would say, even advice for myself after this is the best therapy I'm gonna get all
Okay, good.
week. Advice for myself after this is just post it, and if
Yeah.
in a couple weeks if you get a better video, post that one again.
I think that's what you do, because perfectionism sometimes is the enemy of creativity. The more you try and perfect something, because nothing's ever perfect, and we can always, and we're the harshest critics of ourselves. That's one of the reasons I do this live show, because if you and I were to do an interview and then we were to edit it perfectly, and then I were to hand it to you and you were to edit it the way you want it, we'd never get it out there.
That's true.
And then people would never see the actual raw, struggle, basically. Mike Knox says it's all struggle. It's all a struggle.
That's true.
Mike
Right.
Knox.
I do
Yeah.
challenge anybody who says that you're your own biggest critic to meet my mother, because it might change your opinion on that. I could say that on here because I know she's not watching. It's okay. Hi, Mom.
Well, it's hard. Yeah, that's hard too, because I got my mom's voice in my head sometimes too, telling me, "Oh, don't do that." And sometimes you just have to do it. Also, I've met a lot of comedians on here that they utilize TikTok and these various different short form things to try out a joke, see if it gets a bunch of likes, and actually, because you know what? Everyone's not seeing it. Even if you get a million hits, everyone is not going to see it. And so it's not, I don't even think you can worry about it. Like if you go to a show, like we were in Michigan, Ginny Sykes, two people showed up at one of the clubs that had just seen her online. And,
Yeah.
and they were like, we like this joke. And so, and then Marcus Monroe was on last Friday, and he got really upset, I think, when someone said that they heard one of his jokes online that he said in the club. But I don't think you can worry about that. I don't think you can worry about that. I think you gotta
Especially
let
if it's just 30-second clips out of your 15-minute set, right?
Yes.
It's the benefits of it definitely outweigh the negatives for sure.
You're lucky if everybody saw your clips. You're lucky.
Right? If everybody in
you're
that room
famous.
knows my
You're
30
famous.
second, right.
If they're mouthing along, you're like, wow, I'm doing this thing right. Steve Martin, in fact, used to say that about his routine, that after a while it got so he was just hosting the party and everybody was mouthing along with his bits. But
Right? To become the quintessential, to be able to write that joke and become, to be that mouth on that subject is the goal, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It really is the goal. So take it as a compliment. Howard says perfection is his challenge too. Yeah, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. And another thing that people do is it's also a good way, you know how you're saying writing jokes down, like you might miss them. It's also a good way to have a record of your jokes. You can go back and look at your stuff online, because you know what really happens with things online mainly is that they kind of have a life these days that is fleeting. It's like just a few hours. Like the shorts on YouTube, you put them up and you know how many hits you're going to get within a few hours or even a day maybe. And then people have moved on. So I don't know, it's kind of just in the shuffle. It's sort of like when you go to a club and people hear all your jokes and there's always going to be another club, That's
it's
why
the
people
feed,
travel.
right?
Yeah.
If you refresh your feed every 15 minutes, you'll have a new feed every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
If you miss your one opportunity within that, then it just confines to oblivion from there.
Yeah. Ginny says, at this stage, I don't think I'm burning material. It's better to get exposure. Yeah, that's what I think too. I think we've just recently kind of moved into I think going into the pandemic, I felt the way that you were saying, like you don't want to give it away. And coming out of the pandemic, I think things changed completely. Pam says, I'm striving from perfectionist to good enough. Yeah.
Pam is more than good enough. Me and Pam are currently working on something. It'll be the first partnership that I've really had in comedy, but I can't just speak highly enough of how great she's been and how I keep on telling her every time. I saw her do stand up before I started at one of the open mics that I was just before I wanted to dip my toes in, before I even thought like, yeah, I could do this. I saw her do it and she killed it, and she was so funny. And she's a bit older, so I just wasn't expecting her to go up on the stage and tell dirty jokes or tell, whatever she's got. And it was just killer. And I'm just so appreciative. Sorry. Shout out to Pam, though.
I'm so happy to hear that, because Pam has been somebody I've known for a long time. When I started this show, I really wanted to inspire people to do what they, things that they want to do. And Pam kind of took up this comedy thing, and not to say that I'm responsible for it or anything like that, but she's a part of this community, and she started doing comedy, and now it's extending out to lots of other people. And it's a beautiful thing to see. It really is. I do want to acknowledge Howard Aronin, his joke that I missed because I'm not that great at reading tiny letters, but he said, prefection is my challenge. Prefection. And now he's like, this is the way we think as comedians. He's like, maybe I should spell it more wrong. Prefection with a K. Anyway, Richard says, as a singer, I'm also a perfectionist. And I would find flaws in every video. So I edited around the flaws and created 19 medleys. Yeah, there's that too. Mike Knox says his mom too is perhaps in his head. Critic. Pam says Cam and Pam. So sweet. That is sweet. And Pam says
that is it.
She says, yes, Joel. You and Cam and Jenny and Jeff and Danielle always encourage me. So my wife's name is Cam as well. Kamala. So her name's Kamala, like the vice president. But yeah.
With a K?
With a K, yeah.
That's it. That's the only way to do it.
It's the only way to do it. Ernesto. What's up, Cam, a.k.a. Shrimp? There's Ernesto there.
Oh.
Great to see you here.
Yeah, so Ernesto's a friend of mine. We actually went to a homecoming together. Love you, Ernesto.
That's cool.
So Shrimp, in Spanish, Camarón or El Camarón is shrimp. So I'm almost 6 foot tall. Right. So anybody that's Spanish speaking, and even at my last job where most of the kitchen was only Spanish speaking, I've been called Shrimp as a nickname for, it's funny. I'm tall and it's El Camarón, but Ernesto, oh my gosh.
It's good to see you here, Ernesto. Yeah. Right on. I love it. All right. Now. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is because we've reached the end of the show, unfortunately. I know. I really appreciate you being on the show. Yeah, that was an hour. We're at 12:54. It's just about over.
If only real therapy could go by this fast. Am I right?
Right. Yeah. What about acting? Do you think you'll do anything like that? Or is that a goal somewhere? Like become a great stand-up comedian and then do acting?
I don't think it's something that I would pursue. I took an acting class at Henry Ford College or Community College when I was there. I've been in student films for my friends at Wayne State or other places and just doing it. So it's fun and I like being on set. I really like doing camera angles and messing with the lights and like the directorial kind of more so back end of it. But it's just something to do. Yeah, if anybody here wants me to be in the film, sure. KamrynKBookings.com@gmail. Let me know.
I love that. Yeah. So, and do you think that you'll ever write comedy for other people or write shows, anything like that?
Yeah, I would love to, especially because like the ability to write from somebody else's perspective and have somebody write from your perspective, you're going to just have things that you can't think of and different ways to go about it. Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun for sure.
I like that. All right. We're going to watch you. We've got you followed. Everybody should follow Kamryn. She is at SpamlikeKam on Instagram. Are you a Monty
Everything.
Python fan by any chance?
Yes.
You are.
Spam, 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 spam.
I'm so glad to hear it because in my acting class we did a scene from it was called The Argument Clinic, which is a Monty Python sketch, and nobody in the class knew about Monty Python. And I'm like, oh my God, is this dying? You know, are we going to lose this incredible tradition?
Monty Python inspires me when you have a joke that you think is too smart. Like,
Yeah.
you know, some people don't get it. I have a joke about dyslexia, and I guess it's like you have to have dyslexia to really get it. But I still do it every single time because I'm like, I don't care. You know, it's a good joke. It's not my fault if you don't understand what dyslexia is.
Yeah. I love jokes like that, though, that you just, you know, the ones that you really enjoy that maybe don't get the laugh, but you're always working on and always trying to maybe bring everybody in. Maybe it just needs a little bit of explanation. Who knows?
Right. Something.
Yeah. All right. So today we're going to do a kind of different dance party. It's an AI dance party. There's a, okay, what is that song called? Pink
Pony Club.
Pony Club. That's it. I thought I was going to get it wrong. Pink Pony Club, very popular song. I listen to it every day by Chapel Roan. And Plankton from SpongeBob is going to be doing the version of it, the cover of it. So this is the dance break. This is the end of the show. There's a few more comments here. Here for a good argument. No, you're here for a good argument. Howard, I'm just getting the perfectionist joke. Ginny's finally getting it. Thanks, everybody, for being here. This has been super fun. And thank you, Kamryn, for being on the show. It's a big
Thank you for having
to
me.
us. All right. All right, let's do this thing. Dance break time. Let's go to Honey Beach. Oh, that's from last week.